All right, it is time for episode interview 8 of Birds vs. Boys Hate Week, and it is I think I could say, right, Aidan, one of our top 2 favorites, and he's not number 2, right?
I'm calling him my friend also.
Yes. We only talk about his wedding, his honeymoon, his purse. We're boys at this point. Kyle's been here. He's been an A1 from day one for Birds vs. Boys, so we appreciate it. Kyle, Merry Christmas. How are you?
I'm great, guys. Excited about the matchup coming up and excited to hop on with you guys. I feel like it's been a while. I mean, I haven't gotten a call from you guys recently. I don't know what's going on.
Well,
we would never forget about you. We saved the best for this week.
we were talking about, I think the last time you were on, it was the preseason when you were about to call the game and you actually had your play sheet and you were showing us your play sheet before the game.
That's right. I was in the hotel in Irvine. That's right. Yep. Good recall there. I forgot about that. And I was showing you the play sheet and stuff and kind of how it works. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, not gonna lie, we love that in-depth look. After you got off, we're like, that's so cool. We got to see the whole call sheet.
Oh yeah, I've got a couple of them on my desk, but I'm all the way across the hallway. I don't know if I can run there and back and make it worth the content.
Unless you find somebody else cool and you can just grab them and bring them in too. But
that's true. If I see somebody walk by, I saw McCarthy a little bit ago, and usually no, never mind. This isn't. It feels like a Friday, but since it's a Thursday, the TV broadcast crews usually come in on Friday. It's a Saturday game, so they may be here. Kevin Burkhardt.
Look at that.
Burkhardt might be rolling around with Greg Olsen somewhere.
Say if Greg Olsen is around, you can bring him on for.
Okay, I'll see if I can snag him when they pop through here. We'll see.
I can make sure he says Dak Prescott this week instead of Deck Prescott, which he was saying a lot last week. Yeah, but that's okay. It happens to the best of us.
Give him some flack on that one.
All right, so. This is actually the perfect segue into what my first question was for you, Kyle. So you are in the building. You basically live in the building, right? You are there physically right now. So I know what the vibes are for the fan base on Twitter. Aidan knows what the vibes are in Philadelphia, very high. So what are the vibes like in the building and the locker room right now for the Dallas Cowboys?
It's funny because you look at the record at 10-4, you would think the vibes are probably pretty awesome, right? I mean, feeling good. You've already clinched a playoff spot. Not the case. It's very frustrated at the moment because of the way that the last 2 weeks have gone. I mean, you talk about a month ago, you put a 40-plus point win over a top team in the NFC against Minnesota. 40-3 was the final score in that one. Then you turn around, you put up 33 points in the fourth quarter alone against Indianapolis, and you're flying. You feel really good about what you're doing, and you only got the 3 losses, and you're very much so in the race in the NFC East. Then you barely survive against the Texans, thinking that was the wake-up call. You jump out to a 17-point lead on Jacksonville in the third quarter, and then that evaporates. And now you've got a 4th loss. Your hopes for an NFC East crown are slim to none. And you've got to win out now, and Philly's got to lose out if you do want the top seed in the NFC and you want to be a part of the bye week. So I think the feeling in the building isn't necessarily it's not bad because they are going to the playoffs. There's a lot to be excited about with this team. 10 wins again, back-to-back double-digit wins, seasons for the first time since 95 and 96 or 94, 95. I can't remember exactly which years. But the fact is you just didn't get the job done in Jacksonville. You didn't hold up your end of the bargain to set up what was one of the most highly anticipated NFL games of the season and a rivalry that could have decided the NFC East. I mean, think about the Jalen Hurts news, for instance, the fact that he's out on Saturday against Dallas. If that news would have broken following a Cowboys win, everyone would be talking about it. It would be a massive storyline, and it still is because it is a big game anytime the Cowboys and Eagles play each other, but it would have been a monumental NFL-altering sort of storyline. At this point, though, Philly just needs one more win, and they've got it all locked up, and they're ready to go for the playoffs. Dallas, on the other hand, they've got to find some momentum over these final 3 weeks to really turn the morale around and really find a way to have some momentum heading into a playoff run.
Couldn't have
most
said it
definitely.
It's
Yeah, it's been I saw the Cowboys played in the highest rated regular season game on TV this year, Eagles Cowboys had the chance to blow that away and be the highest rated TV regular season game of all time.
No doubt.
I feel like it still could have a chance, but obviously it's lacked that a little bit of punch now with the loss and with the loss of Jalen Hurts. But still, I'm pretty excited. So the Cowboys getting back on track. I know Micah's back. He's full go of practice, back from being sick. When he does go this weekend, where do you expect him to line up? I know there's been a lot of talk of him kind of easing away from edge rusher and maybe back to linebacker a little bit.
Yeah, I think for the most part this season, it's been like 75-25 his snaps in terms of being on the offense or on the defensive line as an edge rusher and then at the second level as a linebacker. I think you're going to see more of a 50-50 split. It won't be a 100% either way, him at linebacker. But without Leighton Vander Esch in the fold, you felt really good about the way that linebacker core was working before he was hurt, because you had a rotation of three guys you trusted: Leighton Vander Esch, Damone Clark, and then Anthony Barr. But now that it's just Damone Clark and Anthony Barr, you may need somebody to rotate in and be better at that second level. Maybe that's Jaron Kearse, who came in and did it a little bit against Jacksonville, or maybe it's Micah Parsons. You just back him off the defensive line. You bring Dorrance Armstrong into the formation. You have your Armstrong and your DeMarcus Lawrence as your two edge rushers, and then Micah Parsons as a linebacker. It limits you in terms of the versatility, but it's also a gift from Micah and what he can do as an NFL defender. I mean, he's just so versatile and he does so many things well that even if you have to put him at the second level, he's still going to be an impact player for your defense. And I expect that to be the case this week, whether he's at the defensive line as an edge rusher or whether he's at linebacker, which I think it'll be a little bit of both.
So and that brings me to
let him play offense.
Yeah, right.
Just let him do everything. He can play corner. Come on, CB2. Sure. I think Micah can play.
Yeah,
corner.
Right.
But speaking of the thin linebacking core too, so obviously Leighton Vander Esch, thank goodness it was more the shoulder stinger than it was the neck. So hopefully we get to see him back in the playoffs. Is this an opportunity here for a Jabril Cox? Because he was somebody I had a lot of high hopes for. Then he goes out, he hurts the knee last year. He looked good against the Giants. He had that stop on Daniel Jones on the goal line. Everybody had high hopes. Is this a chance maybe we could see these two LSU linebackers doing their thing together, and Damone Clark and Jabril Cox? I feel like this is a big, big opportunity for him.
No, it absolutely is. And for somebody that they anticipated being healthy this season, and he has been relatively healthy, but I just don't think his change of direction has returned for Jabril Cox since his injury. Damone Clark has come in off of injury. He's played well. He looks 100% healthy. Jabril doesn't have that same sort of burst and that same sort of change of direction, agility that he had prior to an injury that he sustained midway through last year. Because out of LSU, I was excited about him too, in the way that he can cover guys, tight ends, cover running backs out of the flat, go sideline to sideline. That was kind of his MO. And if he's unable to do that well, it severely limits what his skill set looks like. So I think this is a chance for him to show, guys, I'm healthy. I'm ready to contribute. I'm tired of being inactive, because he has been on the inactive list quite a bit this week, or not this week, but this season. Yeah. And if he is on it again this week, I think that'd be a severe disappointment for him, and maybe even a bit of a question on what his future could hold in Dallas. Because if he's not active when you have Leighton Vander Esch out and you're having to pull Micah Parsons back to the second level, where are you really going to find your rhythm here? Where are you ever going to find a window of opportunity quite like this one to step up and make some plays? So I think it is. I think you're right. You're spot on. This is a big week for Jabril Cox to show what he's got, both on special teams and on the defensive side of the football, because if he's going to make it in Dallas, he's going to have to do something either this week or in these final 3 games.
And I hope he does. I'm rooting for him.
Yeah. Big week for a lot of names you wouldn't expect. Gardner Minshew and Jabril Cox is exactly what we expected going into this.
Very nice.
Switching to another big name on the defense, what do you think the plan will be for Trayvon Diggs? The Eagles kind of have this like receiver 1 and 1A situation, and I honestly think the CB2 position for the Cowboys might kill Kevin at this point. Like, I'm starting to actually get really worried about him. So what do you think the plan is to utilize Trayvon's skill set against the skill positions for the Eagles?
Yeah, it's interesting because he could turn around immediately and he could be just locked in on AJ Brown. And I part of me expects him to be locked on to AJ Brown and try and limit what he's done this season. I mean, 1,200 yards in his first year in Philadelphia, more than any other player in their first year with the team. And he's only 208 yards away from the single season franchise record with 3 games to play. So AJ's a problem. And especially with the way that the CB2 and CB3 position has gone, I would anticipate Diggs to follow Brown and get one of those other guys to try and keep up with Devontae Smith. Luckily, you don't have Jalen Hurts throwing the football. I don't think Gardner Minshew scares you nearly as much through the air as much as Jalen Hurts would with those 2 guys and what they've done. But are they going to continue to be a problem? Absolutely. And so if I were a defensive coordinator, and I know in week 6 when these 2 teams played, Diggs didn't travel. He basically stayed to one side of the formation and kind of went with whoever went to that side and allowed Anthony Brown to take over whenever needed. I think that changes this week. I think it is Trayvon Diggs that does travel with Brown and will stay in his hip pocket, hopefully throughout the entirety of the ball game.
And who do you think is that CB2? I know Dan Quinn said it was basically an open competition. Are we going to just find out on Saturday?
I think you're going to find out on Saturday because, like I said earlier, we haven't even gotten a chance to really look into who it could be in terms of the extra bodies out there. I think there's a chance you see more of Nahshon Wright. He came in and actually played quite nicely toward the back half of that Jacksonville game whenever Kelvin Joseph was out. I think you might even see some of these other signings, Mackenzie Alexander, Kendall Sheffield, who was brought in throughout the season and has spent some time on the practice squad. I mean, there's been multiple guys they've added into the fold. I think you'll see a couple of them throughout these next couple of weeks. One guy I kind of want to throw into the mix, though, and I talked to him the other week, and I mentioned this on Talking Cowboys this week, but Israel Mukuamu was a corner in college at South Carolina, and he played out on the edge. I haven't heard anything about it. There has been 0 rumors about him moving.
There's been rumors all over my Twitter.
Kevin started.
That's where the rumors have been.
I asked him, I said, "What would you ever move to corner?" And he said, "Yeah, would I? I mean, of course I would."
Kyle, he liked the tweet of mine that said, without him being tagged, that I would like to see him being played at corner this year.
He feels more comfortable at corner. So there's a possibility maybe it break glass in case of emergency. I know I would like to see it just because he's a guy that hasn't necessarily panned out at safety. It's not like he's been bad. He's been active. No. He's been playing. He's on the sideline regardless. Why not give him a shot to go play corner in the NFL when that was his most comfortable position in college? If he would have come out and been a baller at safety, then yeah, sure, keep him at that position. But when you're struggling to find a corner, why not look in-house and go get a guy that you know has done it previously and has done it at a high level to the point that you drafted him at? So I think I would try and make it happen, but I'm really interested to see how they'll try and combat maybe some of their problems at the cornerback spot.
And I mean, he's 6'5", 215. He ran a 4.46, and I think we saw this preseason in camp. He had some really good reps on CeeDee Lamb in the slot in camp, and then we saw his ball skills in the preseason games. So I'm right there with you. I think our brains connected on that. As soon as you said, I knew it was coming.
Yeah, I could tell. I was excited for Kevin as soon as you said that. And what's the worst that could happen? Because it's like last week they gave up 500 yards. Trevor Lawrence threw for 4 touchdowns. Like that is the worst outcome. So if it happens again, you're like, all right, it doesn't work. But you don't know until you try it, and you know what the worst outcome could be. So we'll see.
All right. I want to shift real quick. We've talked a lot of defense. Let's talk a little bit of the offense. This wide receiver core, obviously CeeDee Lamb, I think, has silenced all the critics that were saying, I don't know if he could be a true number one. I mean, he's been balling out lately. Michael Gallup, still coming off that injury. You know, he's kind of been up and down. He was a little bit of a ghost this past week. We've got nothing from James Washington in 2 games. One attempt, 0 catches.
Yeah.
And Noah Brown has basically been wide receiver 2. Is this a game where we're going to see T.Y. Hilton activated, do you think?
I think he will be activated. I was a little shocked he wasn't even last week, but I get it for last week. First week in an organization, still kind of learning the ropes and getting comfortable. So the fact that he wasn't available last week wasn't a shock. I want to go back to what you said about Michael Gallup, because still coming off of the injury. I get it, but he's been back, Kevin, since week 4.
Yep.
He's been playing since week 4. I love Michael Gallup more than anybody, and he's had his spurts. I mean, he had 2 touchdowns a couple weeks ago. He's been a guy you can rely on throughout his career. I think Michael Gallup is worth every penny except for this year. I mean, This is the one time I really haven't felt good about Michael Gallup. And at some point, the injury can't be an excuse. At some point, you just can't play. So that's my plea to Michael Gallup is, I get it. There was a mental hurdle to get over and a physical hurdle at that with the injury and what he had to deal with. And it wasn't a pretty injury. It was a significant injury for a reason. But since week 4, he's been relatively undersung all the way through this season. I mean, his numbers, 31 receptions, 340 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 of which came against Indianapolis. He needs more. He needs more production than what he had throughout his 21 season, throughout this season. I know he's been dealing with the injury, but they need more to supplement what CeeDee Lamb is doing. I think the tight ends have played a big role into that. Jake Ferguson, Dalton Schultz, Peyton Hendershot with a touchdown last week. They've kind of helped mask some of the problems at wide receiver just because of how electrifying some of those tight ends can be. And Tony Pollard, too, with that being said, I think he's kind of offset it a little bit as well. I think there's a chance these wide receivers are vastly overrated underneath a CeeDee Lamb because Gallup hasn't shown anything. Tolbert's been a complete bust through his rookie season, and James Washington just hasn't had a chance to see it yet. I need those guys to step up if you're really going to have some success in the postseason.
Couldn't agree more.
What if I could interest you in another receiver who had off-season leg surgery?
Okay. Who's
Possibly. And he may play in the postseason, or he may never play this season. You can have him next year. Was that annoying, just dealing with that whole Odell
It's still
Beckham
happening,
thing?
Aiden. It's not
I was about to say, we're dealing with it. I mean, currently, it got to the point where it was overdone, and we had talked about it a ton too because we thought it was going to be a topic of conversation, and it certainly was. We didn't anticipate it being for 2 months or 3 months down the line, and then after those 2 or 3 months passed, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, it's going to be another 5 weeks until he's going to be ready, and then by that point, it was done. At least from a media standpoint, everybody had been burnt out about it. The fact that he's paraded around and he makes visits and he's having these conversations and he's telling teams, oh, yeah, I would love to come and sign for you guys, but roll out the red carpet for me. And then, oh, yeah, I'm not going to play for another month and a half.
I'm not going to work out for you.
Absolutely annoyed me. It was just a waste of time. And, yeah, it got to the point where not only myself but the entire media, I think, around the Cowboys got burnt out by it. It'll be different if he signs. If he comes and signs and he can play significant, then great. I mean, I think this is a team that needs a guy like that at some point down the line, whether it's this year or next year. They could use an Odell Beckham Jr. However, they went out and got a T.Y. Hilton saying, we're not done talking about Odell Beckham, but hey, at the moment, we're done talking about him. So I think it's a topic that's going to continue into the offseason because I don't even think he's going to play this year. I really don't.
I don't either.
Like
and I was so done with it. I'm like, all right, TY's here. It's over. It's done. And then all of a sudden that USA Today thing came out. I was like, he's going to join us. I'm like, what is happening? Stop. Yeah. Just stop.
See, right, I had even heard from people in the building that it was done. It was almost a done deal. I mean, this was a team that wanted OBJ, which is not a secret. And Jerry Jones even came out and said it too, that he feels like it's going to happen sooner rather than later. I just think the medicals upended the whole conversation. I think the way that the conversations went was good, but the direction that the medicals went was not. And I think that was what was the big roadblock.
Do you think Odell and his team weren't that upfront with the medical portion of that, like the time frame in which he could play? Is that
I think they were upfront about it until they got into the building, or they weren't upfront about it until they got into the building. And then when they get in the building and you're meeting with trainers and you're meeting with people that know what they're doing, they've seen everything in the business. They understand where people are and how they are, even whether or not they've worked out or not. They can't hide it. So that's where the decision-making process was made, was after they were evaluated without actually working out.
Yep. See that? Okay, that would make sense, and you can't really fault the Cowboys in that situation for saying, "Oh, we think he's coming," and then you
the
get
Cowboys
him here.
weren't the Cowboys weren't the only team that had that problem. I mean, look at what Buffalo brought him in and took him on a visit. There were multiple teams that took him in and brought him on a visit to see if he's okay. There's a reason he's still a free agent, though. It wasn't just the Cowboys' fault. Yes, the Cowboys' name is going to be thrown out there more than anybody's, just because it's the Cowboys and it's the star. However, the conversation, I think, was at the fault of Odell Beckham's people, I guess, agents, whoever has been parading him around and putting him in front of these teams, trying to get him signed to a deal, but also probably keeping that information a little too close to the chest.
Yep. They knew what they were doing. They knew exactly what they were doing. All right, last kind of X's and O's question before Aidan has one last for you, and we'll get you out of here. It seems like they're set with keeping the rookie Tyler Smith at left tackle now that Tyron's healthy. So do you think in this game and going forward the rest of the season, we're still going to see that right tackle kind of switch back and forth with Tyron and Jason Peters? Or do you think, because I mean, the offense definitely moved the ball better when Tyron was in there. Is he still, you think, going to be on a pitch count until the playoffs?
I don't think it'll be a pitch count. And Mike McCarthy has alluded to this a little bit as well. But if Tyron's ready to stay in, I think he'll stay in. I think it will be Tyron's job for the rest of the year. They really do not want Tyler Smith to learn a third position. Of course, he was trying to play left guard. He plays left tackle, and then they would swing him out to right tackle. They don't want him to be in a third position in his rookie season. They want him to stay on the left side of the line of scrimmage. And maybe there's a chance that he would swing out, or he would be the backup at some point if Tyron's just not working out to the right side. But I think the more that Tyron gets comfortable out there, the better that offensive line will be. It'll continue to get better as the season goes along. And hopefully by the time playoffs comes around, he's got 4 games under his belt at right tackle, and he's healthy going into the playoffs, and in doing so could try and make a bit of a run. I think that's a huge key for this offensive line, is finding a little bit of continuity, because it hasn't been that way the last couple of weeks.
Nope, not at all. Not at all.
All right, last question from us, and we've been asking all of our guests this week just to get the pulse of everybody. So if you could, in a few sentences, tell us what the Eagles-Cowboys rivalry means to you.
Oh, man. The Eagles and Cowboys rivalry is the closest thing to a college football hatred as you can get in the NFL. And the reason why is it's 2 fan bases, 2 completely different thought process. You've got the urban northeastern sort of stubbornness in Philadelphia, and then you've got the southern and quaint sort of stubbornness down in Texas. And both of them think that they know more about the sport than the other. Texas high school football, we've got the Big 12, we've got the SEC, we do it right up here. And then there's Big 10 country up in Pennsylvania. And then you've got the New York state of mind, and not New York specifically. I know those two hate each other too, but like just the Northeastern state of mind of we've been here before and we've done it. We're experienced for a reason. And then you clash on a football field. And with the history that both of these 2 franchises have, it is a hatred, and it is a downright beatdown every single time. So what it means to me is you get a college atmosphere in an NFL game, which is rare. I mean, you could either go watch the New York Jets on the road against the Jacksonville Jaguars this week, or you could turn around and go watch the Philadelphia Eagles on the road against the Cowboys at AT&T Stadium, with a chance to win the division and a chance to go to the playoffs and lock up a divisional title and things of the sort. I mean, anytime these 2 teams play, it's must-watch television. anytime these two teams are good and they play, it's stop down, take the day. You need some time to really gather this all in and really enjoy the experience, because that's what this rivalry is.
It's perfect. I would agree. It's closest to
perfection.
College football we can get.
Perfection. All right, Kyle. Let everybody know where they can follow you on Twitter, how they can watch you on podcasts, how they can listen to you on pregame, postgame, everything.
Okay, so follow me on Twitter. This is my Twitter handle right here. So at Kyle_Youmans right there. Pregame gets started 2 p.m. Central Time this week on DallasCowboys.com. You can watch it from anywhere. You can watch it on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, not Instagram, I guess. But you can watch it wherever you really want to reel it in. You can watch it on the website, DallasCowboys.com, and the Dallas Cowboys social channels. We'll have post-game reaction as well. Cowboys OT, Cowboys game night, Cowboys first word presented by Dr. Pepper. And then throughout the week, Talking Cowboys will be on there. And then the draft show gets started here in about a month or 2 months, hopefully mid-February, late February is when we'll start the draft show. I think that would be a ton of fun. And then we'll get you ready for the draft after that as well. So plenty of content. Just keep up with me. Easiest way to do it is to follow right here at Kyle_Youmans.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you think those national media talking heads at the top work hard, you are out of your mind. This is the hardest working man in sports media. And Kyle, we appreciate the few minutes. And don't worry, when these two teams meet again in the playoffs, we will have you back.
I love it. I hope that happens just based off of what I just said. You talk about a college atmosphere. That's going to be a next level matchup if they were to meet each other in a meaningful playoff game like that.
And then you will have to come up to Philadelphia.
Deal. I'm out.
We'll be here.
Sounds good.
Done and done. Kyle, thank you.
Appreciate it, guys.